met. My name is Rob Kent. I've been with CENTEGIX since January 2019. I am currently responsible for sales in the Southeast. Your team, you decided that you want to invest in school safety. You've decided that emergency notification is a good place to invest. And so you're going to do your due diligence. You're going to talk to us. You're going to talk to other vendors who have some sort of capability. And inevitably, you're going to talk to these companies that have a mobile app-based panic button solution. There's lots of them out there. We've replaced dozens of these. In fact, the reason that we've replaced them is that they sound good, but there's challenges with them, right? Then they kind of fall into four categories. One, and probably the most significant one, is that they've got really, really low adoption rate. The challenge inside of schools is that you don't own the phones of your teachers. Because you don't own the phones of your teachers, you can't force them to install something on their phone. And if you work in a state that has unions, it becomes an even bigger issue. But what we've seen, because again, we've replaced so many of these, is even in a school district where they've done a really, really good job of getting people to install it, you'd really have less than a 10% adoption rate. And that is a common stat across all of the school districts that we've worked with. So very low adoption rate, nobody uses it. Even if they haven't installed, the phones rely on either Wi-Fi or cellular. We know, you know, that there's dead zones throughout your entire school for cellular. We know that Wi-Fi doesn't extend everywhere, especially outside on the campus. And if the phone is not connected to Wi-Fi, then it's going to be a multi-step process to connect it before they can trigger an alert. So there's challenges there. And what we heard from law enforcement is that from a location perspective, phones are not effective. So you think about this, you're a school resource officer, you're in the school, someone triggers an alert from the phone. It brings up a Google map and it drops a pin on that building and says, go here. Well, you're already in the building. So it doesn't give you that information of where inside the building you should go. And by the way, if you've got multiple floors inside of your building, GPS can't tell you what floor that's on. So it really is ineffective. It's great from a 911 perspective, hey, go to this building. But once you're at that building, or if you're already in that building, it's virtually useless. And then the practical point of a phone, you know, it sounds like it's a great idea, but what happens in a critical event, and it doesn't matter if there's a child that's having an epileptic seizure or if there's literally bullets flying down the hallway, your body goes into fight or flight and you focus on the things that matter. For a lot of people, their brain can't even remember their password. And finding this app that you never use, right, becomes difficult and cumbersome. So what we've seen when we've replaced these is that mobile apps are used for testing and they're used for drills, but in practice, they have virtually zero usage at all, both for obviously the worst case scenario, but for the day-to-day things. So these are the problems that we were trying to solve when we built CrisisAlert. All right, so what we have is a badge-based panic button solution. You see it there on the screen. So we have a badge and it's got a single button on it. Now, important, this badge runs independent of Wi-Fi and independent of cellular. And I'm going to talk about the technology in a few minutes, but there's really kind of four things in this category of what we call a wearable panic button that make us unique. One is the simplicity, right? So there's one button on here, right? This badge, and again, we'll talk about the technology. They don't need to charge this badge. They put it on their, around their neck. They don't have to charge it. They don't have to install anything on their phone. All they have to do is wear this, and if there's a problem, all they have to do is push this button. It's literally push button, help comes, and it cannot get more simple than that. The other thing is that it's total campus coverage. So 50% of events happen outside of the classroom. So it's not okay to have something that is just inside the classroom. You have to have something that covers the entire campus. Every single building, every part of the campus outside, your parking lots, your athletic fields, your playgrounds, your common areas, everything gets covered. And not only does everything get covered, but using our technology, we're able to identify fairly precisely where that person is located, right? Again, we're going to talk about the technology, but we can differentiate between floors. And when they push that button, we can zero in and identify within a fairly tight radius where that person is located. So as they move around the campus, when they push the button, we're going to be able to identify where they are. Now, really important, this does not track people. I consider this a passive technology. Right? The school district, you don't have the ability to go in and figure out where this person is as they move through the campus. If they want to report their location, they have to push this button. That's them giving their express permission to report where they are. Then you get notified so you can see and you can go provide help. And then finally, if it's a worst case scenario, so if it's an active shooter situation, we tie in and we integrate with lights and sounds to let everyone on campus know so they can initiate their lockdown procedure. Okay, so we have this badge, and this badge does two different things. It does what we call a staff alert, and it does a lockdown. Now, a staff alert, this is all the day-to-day stuff that happens, right? This is where your staff members, your teachers, your custodians, your nutrition staff, they see something that's out of their control. It can be a medical emergency, it can be a fight, it can be a kid that goes for a run, it can be an angry parent that gets in someone's face. Whatever it is, there's a situation that is out of their control and they need help. So this is how it works. Here's a view. This is our command console. This is a view of one of our schools. This happens to be in Atlanta, right? Let's say a teacher is in the hallway and they see something that's out of their control. They take this badge and they just press it 3 times. That badge vibrates in their hand. That's their indication that, okay, my message has been sent, help is on the way, I can focus on what's in front of me. It just takes a couple of seconds. And I'm not sure if that sound comes through on your end, but it just takes a couple seconds and it pops up and it notifies the response team at that school that this individual needs help. If you look in the top right here, you can see a little bit of information. It's a staff alert. They know it's not a lockdown. This school called this the main hallway hub. That's what they named this area. You can see that it was triggered by Rob Kent. You can see that I've got my initials on the pin that's dropped, right? Very, very simple. So immediately your response team knows that, hey, Rob Kent needs help. Here's where they're located. Now you're going to see something else on here. There's some icons that are on this map. We call these safety icons, right? So as part of the solution, what we do is we give you the ability to plot your safety assets on this map. All sorts of different safety assets, your cameras, your AEDs, your stop the bleeds, your first aid kits, your gas shutoffs, all these different things. This does a couple different things. One, immediately your response team, as they're responding, they get to the scene, they see it's a medical situation. On the map, they know and they can see where the closest assets are so they can go and they can properly respond to that situation. It also allows us to do some additional things, right? So let's say your school district is big enough where you've got a centralized security office where you've got camera feeds from all your cameras. The challenge with those camera feeds in one of those offices is you're looking at literally a screen of hundreds and hundreds of cameras, and they're tiny little live feeds that happen, and you don't know which one to look at. What this does is on the map, you can see that there's a camera right there, right? So they're able to automatically turn around, bring up that camera so they can see a live feed of what's happening at that location. So what's really important about this staff alert piece, right? This across all of our customer base, this is used on average 2 times per school per week. This is what teachers find so much value in, right? And we're not talking about trivial things. We're talking about actual real alerts, fights, medical emergencies, many things that are actual life-threatening events. This is where teachers feel like the school district is trusting them. It feels like they're investing in them. It feels like they're giving them a lifeline. One of the things that as you know, school administrators, since COVID, there's been over 400,000 teachers who have left the profession because the school environment is not the same as what it used to be, right? So this gives those teachers the ability to call for help and to feel safe in their classroom, which is super, super powerful. If it's a worst case scenario, if someone sees a gun, right? Same badge, instead of pressing it 3 times, they take that badge and they just keep pressing it over and over again. Now, from a technical perspective, it's 8 or more presses, but when we do our training, we don't train that way. We tell them just keep pressing until the school goes into lockdown. What does it mean when it goes into lockdown? So we've got these strobes, right? These nifty little devices that we install in every classroom. We put them in hallways every 60, 70, 80 feet. We put them in entrances and exits. In a big room like an auditorium, we're going to have multiple. We're going to put them in certain places on the outside of the building. We're going to basically blanket the building so that no matter where someone is, they're going to have visual notification that there's an event that's happening, right? Then what we do is we also take over every single screen with a lockdown message.
Lockdown.
And we
Lockdown.
broadcast a message over the
Lock
intercom.
the doors.
Now, I'm not
Stay
sure
away
if
from
the
the windows.
audio is coming over or not, but within just a couple of seconds, 3 to 5 seconds, you get lights that flash. You get an announcement that's played over the intercom system, and you get screen takeover that happens for all of the screens inside of the school. So instantly, everyone in the school knows that there's an event and they need to initiate their lockdown procedures. Now, a lot of people say, well, there's people who do intercom announcements, and that's really good. Okay, it could be good. That's one part of it. It's really important to have multiple methods of notifying people inside the building. For example, if you think of the mentality of someone who wants to commit a mass casualty event, it's literally a mass event. And so they're there to inflict as much damage as they can. And what we've seen at these events is that they try to time it with certain times where kids are not inside classrooms. So at the beginning of school, at the end of school, at class changes. If you were in a hallway during a class change at a high school, you were never going to hear the intercom, or you can hear the intercom, but you have no idea what it's saying. So it's not good enough just to do an intercom integration. Right? You have to do the lights, you have to do the sound, you have to do the screen takeovers. It's really important to do all three of those things. And then in addition, not only do we notify the on-site responders, so your security team, but we also have the option of notifying 911 as well, called the PSAP, the Public Service Answering Point, the 911 center. Now, this is legislation in some states through Alyssa's law that require this. In some states, they don't. It is not required, obviously, unless it's required by law. This is something that's optional for the district. It really depends on if the district wants to do this and if the 911 center wants to accept it. Okay, so from a technology perspective, there's a lot happening in the background, right? It's a fairly complex system, but I will tell you that the team has done a really good job of simplifying this for the end user. So there's really 4 pieces of hardware. You've already seen 2 of them. So there's the badge that every employee gets. There's the strobe that goes in the classrooms and the hallways. We also have what we call an alert beacon. So on the outside areas, parking lots, athletic fields, that sort of thing, we're not going to put strobes because you can't compete with the sun. The strobe isn't bright enough. So we have beacons, which essentially are the same thing. They just don't have a light. So it gives us coverage so people can push the button and we can locate where they are. The other thing that we have is a gateway. So every school has 2. Sometimes, depending on how big your school is, you may have 3. Very rarely you're going to have 4, but we'll call it 2 on average. So 2 gateways per school that get deployed. These gateways are about 12 inches by 12 inches. They get installed on the outside of the school. There's 2 of them for redundancy. Everything that we do is wireless, and other than the gateways, runs on batteries. So these strobes, they've got batteries in there that will last 5-6 years, right? The communication, it doesn't run on your network. It runs off of our network. It runs what we call out of band, right? So doesn't run off of your Wi-Fi. It doesn't run off of cellular. We've got a mesh network that we've created, which is a combination of 2 different industry standard protocols. One is called LoRaWAN. That's kind of our backbone. And the other one is called Bluetooth Low Energy. Not the same Bluetooth that you use for your headset, right? So it won't interfere. Kids won't be able to see it. Some real benefits of this. One, this technology allows us to cover a very long range. So we can get very, very, very large campuses without having to install any kind of repeaters or anything like that. So we can guarantee coverage of your actual campus. The other thing is that it's highly available. So let's say, even though these are battery operated, what happens if a battery dies? Or what happens if a kid bashes one of these out with a baseball bat, right? The system will heal around itself. So it's not like it will bring down the whole system. People will still be able to push their button. We'll still be able to understand their relative location. The system will still continue to operate. The great thing about these being battery operated is that there's no infrastructure that has to be pulled, right? So in some systems, they have low voltage cabling or Cat6 cable that has to be pulled for all the different pieces that are out there. That is not required. These are very simple. They've got a battery on the back. They mount on the hung ceiling within a school. They've got a little steel leader cable that wraps around. So if the kid was to knock it down, rated for 500 pounds, they can't pull it down. Very simple installation, very simple infrastructure from an IT perspective. Now, it is highly available, but this is a life safety device. So we don't want to be in a situation where someone pushes a button that doesn't work. So we work on what's called hardware as a service. That means it is our hardware. It's our responsibility to maintain it. It's our responsibility to make sure that it keeps working. So we monitor every single piece of equipment that we deploy. We've got something like 1.8 million pieces of equipment that we've deployed to date, right? We monitor every single one of them. Somebody right now, they know what the battery life is of this badge. They know how fast it's draining. They know when it needs to be replaced, right? All that work is on us. We do not put that on your IT or facilities team to monitor these devices. That is our responsibility.